There are players who dominate a game, and there are players who become the game's religion. In the early 2000s, the Lakers didn't just have a superstar. They had two kings, standing on the same floor, fighting for the same throne. One was the most unstoppable force basketball has ever seen, a living cheat code, a human avalanche, Shaquille O'Neal. The other was something different, a story, a standard, a myth built in real time. A player people didn't just watch, they studied, copied, and carried with them. This is one of the most uncomfortable truths in NBA history. Shaq was better, but Kobe was greater. Not because Kobe was more dominant at his peak, he wasn't, but because when basketball culture needed a symbol, it didn't choose the most unstoppable force. It chose the one who stayed, the one who evolved, the one who became a mirror for obsession. Let's start with the better, because if better means most unstoppable, there's no debate. Shaq wasn't just dominant, he was inevitable. You couldn't scheme him away. You couldn't play him off the floor. You couldn't outsmart him. You could only do one thing: survive. In his peak, Shaq turned the paint into a disaster zone. 2 defenders weren't enough. Sometimes 3 wasn't enough. And even when you fouled him on purpose, the only real plan the league had, you were still living on borrowed time.
Shaw with the step. Put home by O'Neal. Here's Bryant giving it up. O'Neal. A facial served up by Shaquille O'Neal. Against Dudley. Nice. Shaquille O'Neal was so powerful on that move.
And then came the three-peat. 2002. The Lakers didn't win because they were cute. They won because Shaq was an event. In the finals, it felt like the other team was playing basketball, and Shaq was playing something else. A center so powerful he bent the rules, so massive he bent the floor, so dominant he bent the sport. If you're talking peak dominance, if you're talking most unstoppable player ever, Shaq was better, and it's okay to say that out loud.
I do believe this, Skip. I don't know if the greatest, but he's definitely been in the conversation. Not because when we talk about Shaq, what did we say? He's the most dominant, most unstoppable player that we'd ever seen. Because Skip, he had that stretch there that you couldn't do anything with. They dump it down to him on the block. You was either hack a Shaq. They came up with a thing, hack a Shaq. You was either getting dunked on or you had to foul him.
But here's the thing about having 2 kings. Eventually, one of them has to feel like the other one is in the way. Because Shaq and Kobe weren't just different players, they were different philosophies. Shaq was power, natural greatness, a once-in-a-human history body. Kobe was craft, relentless refinement, a mind that treated basketball like a sacred text. And over time, that difference became a crack. Because Kobe didn't just want to win, he wanted to earn every inch of it. He wanted the summer to matter, the workouts to matter, the discipline to matter. And Shaq, being Shaq, could dominate without living like that. He could show up and still be the most terrifying force in the league. So when the pressure rose and the margin got thin, the question wasn't who's better. It was who's driving the bus. And if you had to pick the right mindset for a dynasty that wanted to last forever, it's hard not to understand Kobe. Not because Shaq didn't work, but because Kobe's obsession wasn't optional. It was the whole point. And by the time the Lakers were three-peat champions, they weren't just winning games. They were building a collision course. 2 kings, 1 throne. Something had to give.
After we won championships, he was like, okay, I can just relax and coast over the summer because I know I got a teammate who's going to be training 8-10 hours a day. And I was like, see, that's the BS.
That would piss me off.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Right.
That's the issue. But also, it became a, it's not something that we couldn't have worked out either. Because we've been doing it, right?
If you're rocking with this better versus greater series, hit like and subscribe, because these debates aren't about disrespect. They're about defining what basketball really values. And comment right now, when you hear greatness, what do you think of first? Dominance or legacy? Here's where greater begins. Because greater isn't just about what you did at your best. It's about what your career becomes. When the story turns, Shaq leaves, and the legacy splits into 2 paths. Shaq goes searching for the next chapter. Miami, Phoenix, Cleveland, Boston. And to be clear, Shaq's resume is still legendary, but the image changes. When you move that much, your story becomes moments. not mythology. Kobe's path goes the opposite direction. He stays. He absorbs the blame. He absorbs the rebuild. He absorbs the lonely seasons where there are no excuses left. And yes, his journey wasn't clean. He went through real tribulations, real growing pains, and he had to become someone worthy of being followed, not just watched. But then the arc changes. Kobe becomes the league's most relentless solo act. The scoring explosions, the impossible shot making, the idea that every possession could be a test of will. And while Shaq's career becomes a collection of destinations, Kobe becomes a single epic. One franchise, one obsession, one long climb toward proving something that mattered to his legacy. Can you win without Shaq? And this is the must-include chapter, because this is the chapter that makes the verdict feel certain. 2009 and 2010, back-to-back championships. Not as the sidekick, not as the closer next to a paint monster, but as the center of gravity. And that second one, 2010, against Boston, in a war, with everything on the line, that ring did something. It turned the Kobe story into something Shaq never quite had. The full arc. The fall. The loneliness. The doubt. The redemption. It's the kind of story basketball fans don't just respect. They attach themselves to it. Because after 2010, it wasn't just Kobe is great. It was Kobe finished the mission. He didn't just win championships. He built a narrative that people could live inside. And in basketball culture, narrative isn't decoration. It's power.
It was important for me and Shaq to go separate ways.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want people to use that again. They still do. But it was important that I win championships without him. And you get a glimpse of what I could have done individually had I not played with him. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was a big driving factor. It's like, hold on, don't get it up now. Like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, I'm playing with Shaq, and it's like, take Mike, put him with Wilt.
And then comes the real reason Kobe is greater. The Mamba Mentality didn't stay in Los Angeles. It went global. It became a language. You can't measure that with PER. You can't chart it with true shooting. You can't summarize it with finals MVPs. Because Kobe wasn't just a player people liked. He was a player people tried to become. The footwork, the fadeaways, the counters. But even more than the moves, it was the mindset. That obsession could be holy. That discipline could be identity. That greatness wasn't something you were born with. It was something you chased. And fans didn't just cheer for Kobe. They adopted him. They used him as motivation, as a ritual, as a symbol. Shaq was dominance. Kobe was influence. Shaq was unstoppable. Kobe was everlasting. So yes, if we're talking pure basketball force, Shaq was better, the most unstoppable player ever. But greatness is the fuller picture, the story that outlives the highlights, the myth that becomes culture. Kobe's longevity, his arc, his loyalty, his redemption, and the Mamba wave that touched the entire basketball world, that's why the final truth stands. Shaq was better, but Kobe was greater. And if you want more basketball mythology after this, watch the exact moment Dirk became a legend next. And if you want the other side of the league's chaos, Anthony Davis, the absolute disaster. Because on this channel, we don't just talk hoops, we tell the stories behind the shots.